You know that feeling when you've spent, well, maybe months or even years just grinding away at a language?
Oh, yeah. You've got the apps, you've got the flashcards.
Great, and you know the grammar rules inside and out, you feel ready.
Mhm.
But then you step out into the real world, someone actually walks up to you, maybe a barista or a colleague, and said something simple, like, hey, what's up? And you just freeze.
It is the classic freeze. The brain completely short circuits.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you have this massive library of books in your head, but the door is locked.
That's a really great image. It's actually the canyon between passive knowledge, what you understand when you read or hear it, and active performance.
What you can actually produce.
Right when the pressure is on. Most people spend their whole lives building that library on one side of the canyon without ever really building the bridge to get across to the other side.
And that is exactly what we are tackling today. We are looking at the blueprints for that bridge. Welcome to our deep dive into a really comprehensive training module from English Easy Practice. Now, I want to be clear right off the bat, this isn't just a list of vocabulary words.
Oh, that's definitely not.
It's not a textbook chapter on conjugating verbs either.
No, it's quite different. It's a video module titled English Conversation Practice, Common Expressions to Improve English Speaking. And what caught my eye about this source isn't just the content, it's the pedagogy.
The methodology behind it.
Yes, it frames language learning not as studying, but as training.
That's a key distinction right there. We aren't here to just recite rules. We're going to unpack the four-part framework this source uses to actually train your brain for fluency.
Right, we've got listening practice, a deep dive into vocabulary nuances, an interactive Q&A section, which is honestly surprisingly intense.
It creates what we call desirable difficulty.
I love that term. And finally, shadowing. But to get there, we have to look at the case study. The source anchors all of this training in a narrative.
A day in the life.
Exactly, a day in the life of two characters, Mike and Sally.
Mike and Sally. I mean, they felt like the protagonists of a generic rom-com, but in this context, they are the vessels for our language lesson. They model the social dynamics we're trying to master.
They really do.
So set the scene for us. Where does this masterclass in conversation actually begin?
Well, it starts in arguably the most universal and relatable setting for frustration. A street corner. Sally is waiting for a bus. And frankly, she doesn't look too happy because, as we find out immediately, the bus is late.
And she doesn't just say it's late. She says the bus is late again.
Right, again. That one little word does so much heavy lifting.
It really does.
It establishes a pattern. It tells us this is a chronic problem for Sally. She's not just annoyed, she's resigned to the struggle.
So Mike approaches her. He gives the standard greeting, hey, Sally, what's up? And she gives the standard response. Not much, just waiting for the bus.
Right.
But here is where the source material highlights a pivotal moment in social dynamics. Mike isn't waiting for the bus.
No, Mike is on a mission. He tells her, I'm going to the coffee shop. I need a break after class. Now pause there for a second. This gives us crucial context.
Yeah, they're students.
Exactly. They've just finished a learning block. Their cognitive load is super high, and Mike is prioritizing recovery. He really needs that break.
And this is where the conversation pivots. He asks, are you busy? Sally admits she's not really busy, just stuck waiting. And then Mike makes the move. He says, I'm going to the coffee shop, basically implying she should come along.
And watch Sally's reaction here, because this is the really interesting part. She looks at her situation, the late bus, the boredom, and she looks at the offer. She says, the bus is late again. It doesn't matter. I'll go with you.
That is a very distinct choice.
It is. She abandons her original plan because the social opportunity and the chance to escape the frustration of the bus stop totally outweighs the need to wait. She just decides to cut her losses.
It doesn't matter. We are absolutely going to come back to that phrase because the source flags it as a major vocabulary lesson.
Yeah.
But first, they actually get to the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And this is where the dialogue gets surprisingly specific about character personality. You might think, oh, it's just a dialogue script, who cares?
Right.
But this source actually gives them distinct preferences.
It does. We learn that Mike is a very serious coffee consumer. He explicitly states, I love coffee. I drink 2 cups every day.
Which, honestly, for a student, implies he's just running on fumes.
Totally.
But Sally immediately judges him for it. She says too much, maybe.
Just a little playful jab. It builds rapport. It shows they're comfortable enough to tease each other. But then Sally reveals she's on the other side of the caffeine spectrum.
The tea side.
Right? She likes tea more. She drinks tea every morning.
Yeah.
So you have this nice little contrast established immediately.
It makes them feel like real people and not just robots reciting lines. But the real bonding, and I think the part that resonates most with language learners, happens when they start talking about what they just experienced.
Hmm.
The class.
Yes. They both agree the class was good, and they specifically like the speaking activity. But then they confess something to each other.
This is the bonding over struggle moment. Mike admits, I didn't understand some words.
He shows vulnerability right there. He admits a gap in his knowledge, and Sally validates him immediately. She says, "Me too. New words are hard."
I just love that line. New words are hard. It's so simple grammatically, but emotionally, it's deeply validating. If you're a learner watching this, you see two fluent speakers admitting difficulty. It totally normalizes the struggle you feel every single day.
Exactly. It signals that confusion is just part of the process. But notice they don't just wallow in it. The source uses this to model proactive behavior. They make a plan.
They do. They agree that we can learn them. It shifts right from a complaint to a solution. Sally suggests studying later, and they set a concrete appointment. They agree to meet at the library at 4 p.m.
Which is pretty good time management. Just enough time for coffee and then back to the grind.
Okay, so everything is going great. They've got their drinks. Well, they're about to get them. They've got a study date set for 4 p.m. The narrative arc is resolving nicely. And then the plot twist.
The crisis.
The crisis. Just when you think it's smooth sailing, Mike checks his pockets. Oh no, I forgot my wallet.
It's the absolute nightmare scenario. You've invited someone out, you've initiated the social interaction, and now you have zero ability to pay.
It really is the worst.
Yeah.
But the source uses this disaster to teach us three specific high-utility expressions. And the first one is one we already hinted at earlier. It doesn't matter.
Right. Now, we heard Sally use this earlier regarding the bus. The bus is late, it doesn't matter, meaning I don't care about the bus anymore. Now Mike is panicking about money, and Sally uses the exact same phrase. It doesn't matter, Mike. You can pay next time.
So let's unpack this. The source creates a parallel here. In the first instance, it doesn't matter means I'm changing my priorities. In the second, it means don't worry about the money.
Exactly. The source defines it simply as it's not a problem or it's okay, but by showing it in two very different emotional contexts, one about time and inconvenience, and one about a social faux pas and money, it really shows the versatility of the phrase. It just dissolves tension.
And the source really drills this in, doesn't it? They have these repetitive audio examples. Like one scenario is someone apologizing for being late. Sorry, I'm late. And the response is, it doesn't matter, I just got here.
It's all about building automaticity. You hear it enough times in enough contexts, and your brain starts to map it doesn't matter as the default response to any minor problem. It just becomes a reflex.
Now, the second phrase is a bit more formal, but Sally uses it to great effect. When Sally offers to buy Mike his tea, since he forgot his wallet, obviously, Mike says, really? Wow. It's very kind of you.
It's very kind of you. This is a clear step up from just thanks. The source notes this is a polite way to express gratitude, effectively saying you are a very nice person. It shifts the focus from the action buying the tea to the character of the person doing it.
But the audio clips the source uses for this part, they were a little unexpected. Did you catch those?
Oh, I definitely did. It wasn't just standard conversation. They threw in these clips that sounded like they were from period movies or historical dramas. One was, "That's very kind of you, my lord."
My lord. I was watching and thinking, wait, are we suddenly in a period piece? Are we in Downton Abbey?
Yeah, and another one was, "It's very kind of you, uncle." It seems a bit jarring at first, but it adds what we might call audio texture. It shows that this phrase fits perfectly in a casual coffee shop with Mike and Sally, but also in a highly formal setting addressing a lord. It proves the phrase has incredible range.
That's a really great point. It shows the learner that you can use this anywhere. Now, the third phrase wraps up the interaction. Mike insists he will pay next time. Sally agrees. And they seal the agreement with one single word, deal.
Deal. Short, punchy, effective. It just means, yes, I agree, or let's do it.
And the repetition here in the source was intense. It was almost like a techno remix.
Yeah.
Deal, 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 deal.
It sounds funny when you say it like that, but from a neurological perspective, that rapid-fire repetition, really drilling the pronunciation, is exactly what helps you retrieve that word instantly when you need it in real life. You don't have to pause and think, how do I agree to this proposal? Your brain just fires deal.
It cuts right through the hesitation. So we've got the story. We got the vocab. But the source argues that listening just isn't enough. You can't just watch Mike and Sally and expect to become fluent by osmosis. You have to participate.
Right.
This brings us to part 3 of their framework, the listen and answer practice.
This is where the source demands active recall. Passive listening is comfortable. Active recall is hard. The video asks specific comprehension questions, and here is the kicker. You are instructed to answer them out loud before the video reveals the answer.
And these weren't just general questions like, did they get coffee? They were highly specific details.
Very specific. For example, with Sally waiting for the train, you have to process that, remember the story, and say, no, she wasn't. She was waiting for the bus. Or where will they meet? If you weren't paying close attention, you might forget. But you have to shout out at the library.
And what time?
At 4 p.m.
It's almost like an interrogation, but in a really good way. It forces you to verify that you actually understood what you heard.
And notice the structure of the answers the source provides. It's not just library, it's they will meet at the library. It forces you to construct the full sentence, reinforcing the grammar structures we saw earlier. It is that core concept of desirable difficulty again. If it's too easy, you simply aren't learning.
Which leads us to the final boss of this training module. Part 4, shadowing. Now, for listeners who haven't done this, how does the source describe shadowing?
The process is simple in theory, but physically demanding. You hear one speaker's line, let's say Mike's line, you listen carefully, then you say it out loud. Immediately after you read the other speaker's line, Sally's line yourself, you are essentially taking turns playing the characters.
So you're mimicking the native speaker, trying to match their cadence, their tone, their emotion.
Exactly. The source claims this helps you speak more clearly, naturally, and with confidence. It's all about muscle memory. Your tongue and lips actually need to get used to forming these sounds in this specific order.
It's really like a musician practicing scales. You can't learn to play piano just by watching a concert. You have to put your fingers on the keys.
Precisely. And the source gives some very practical advice here, too. They say if it's too fast, pause or slow down the video. It acknowledges that jumping straight to native speed is really hard. It's not a race.
That's crucial advice. It's about accuracy first and then speed. And the overarching philosophy of the source is explicitly stated. Repetition is very important to become fluent. They suggest watching the video many times until you can say the answers quickly.
It's exactly the difference between watching a workout video and actually doing the push-ups. Parts 1 and 2 are watching parts 3 and 4 are the push-ups. You can't build muscle by watching someone else lift weights. You have to order the coffee yourself, even if you're just talking to a screen.
So let's zoom out a bit. We started with a really simple interaction, a late bus, a cup of coffee, a forgotten wallet. But through this source, that simple story becomes a rigid training ground.
It effectively demystifies fluency. We tend to think of fluent speakers as having some sort of magic power. But this source breaks it down beautifully. It's just listening context, vocabulary acquisition, active recall, and physical shadowing practice.
And for anyone who wants to put themselves through this training, maybe find out if they can keep up with Mike and Sally, the source mentions you can find more lessons and free downloads at their website, englishpractice.com.
And remember the deal we talked about earlier, the expert in the video essentially makes a deal with the viewer. If you repeat the practice, if you do the work, you will improve.
It's a promise of results in exchange for effort.
Deal.
Deal. You know, before we wrap up, I'm still stuck on that phrase, it doesn't matter. It really struck me how that one little phrase completely changed the energy of the whole interaction. Mike forgot his wallet, absolute panic mode, potential embarrassment. Sally simply says it doesn't matter, and there is instant relief.
It's an incredibly powerful tool. In a second language, we so often worry about making mistakes or creating awkward situations, we just spiral. Having a phrase like "it doesn't matter" in your back pocket is almost like a shield. It stops the spiraled anxiety. It tells the other person, and honestly yourself, that everything is okay.
So that is our final challenge to you. Next time you're in a conversation, whether it's in English or otherwise, and something goes slightly wrong, just try it. It doesn't matter. See how the tension just evaporates.
And see if it makes you feel just a little bit more like Mike and Sally.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you next time.